Well, being a referee, I mean, you talk about being a wrestler, that's intense in itself, but I'm sure being a referee has its fair share of headaches as well. What made you decide to go into that end of the business?
Well, I always, as I mentioned earlier, I always loved wrestling. However, I'm I had moved after college. I went to college in Cleveland, Ohio, and after college, I taught and coached up at a prep school in upper state New York, and then I moved down closer to the city, about a 35-minute train ride to Manhattan. And I was working at the Trade Center at the time. And Monday nights, I would watch wrestling from the Garden a couple times a month with a bunch of friends. We'd have a few brewskis and talk. And I'd say, "Gee, the ref's doing a terrible job." And they said, "Well, you think you could do better?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." So the next day, I said, "You know what? Maybe I ought to look into this. Maybe I could become a referee. I know I'm never going to be a wrestler, but maybe I could become a ref." So my journey began. So I called. I couldn't find a number for the WWF, and I found Capital Wrestling finally through many phone calls to because there was no computers. I couldn't look it up. In those days, you were at the mercy of Ma Bell, a telephone company. So I got a number for Capital Wrestling, and I tried 28 times, and on the 29th time, this guy answers, and he sounded like he would make Marlon Brando and The Godfather sound like an angel. Goes, "Hello." I said, "Is this WWF?" He goes, "Who wants to know?" I said, "My name is Dave Dwinell. What do you want?" I said, "I'd like to be a referee." "We don't need any." I said, "All right." I said, "How about if I send you a resume?" "Don't send me any gifts, kid. I don't need to talk to you. Goodbye." Guy hangs up. I said, "Well, that went well." So I'm not ready to give up quite yet because now I'm upset. I said, "You're not going to blow me off." So I looked up where their office was located. And I worked in the Trade Center at the time, and I found out it was up Midtown. So I go up, and it's the Holland Hotel. I'm going, this is a little strange. So every day at lunchtime, I went to the Holland Hotel for like 2 or 3 weeks, hoping to find somebody from a WWF to talk to. So finally, after 2 or 3 weeks of spending an hour or so in front of the hotel, the doorman comes out and he says, "Excuse me, are you a cop, a private eye, Secret Service, or are you just a nut?" I go, "Well, I'm looking for somebody from the WWF." He goes, "They're only here a couple days a month." It was kind of a sham office. "They're only here a couple days a month when the garden's in town." But that's what they were using for their office address at the time. So I was pretty much ready to give up. And I was the MC at our 100th anniversary for our church. And I met a guy connected with the athletic commission who knew the ropes. And he said, "Look, it's political." So I got a couple politicians whom I knew to recommend me, and they sent me a license in the mail without a test, without ever having refereed. It was pretty much political. So they never let me work. They gave me a license. They didn't let me work. I said, "This is not going to work." So I found their office for the state was around the corner from the trade center. So I go over, and the guy was nice, and he says, "Oh, we'll call you shortly." Well, my definition of shortly was different than his because 3 months went by. So finally, I went over and started yelling at the guy, and the boss comes out, the chairman of the commission, and he says, "What's the problem?" And I said, "Look, you give me a license, you don't let me work." So he goes, "All right, we'll give you." He knew I was politically connected, so he says, "You're going to work." So about 2 weeks later, I get a call and it says, "You're going to do a WWF show at the county center," which had about 5,000 people. And I said, "Great." And then it sank in. Whoa, I never talked to a wrestler. I have no idea if it's fake or real. There's going to be 5,000 people there. What if they don't like me? They're going to throw me out of the ring. I said, this could be a bit of a problem. So I went and I borrowed every VHS tape at Blockbuster Video. And I said, "I
Blockbuster
think I can
Video.
do this." So I went over, and I get over there. My friend Arnold Skolin sees me with my little bag. He says, "Dave, you going on vacation?" I said, "No, I'm one of your reps." And he goes, "No kidding." He goes, "Well, it's getting late. You better go up and talk to Johnny Rods. That's your first match. Johnny Rods and this new kid, 21-year-old Eddie Gilbert." So I said, "All right." So I go up and I go, "What do I?" I'm walking up the stairs. The locker room's upstairs, and I'm going, "What do I talk to Rods about? The weather? How's the family? Is wrestling fake?" So I went in, and Rods was phenomenal. Johnny Rods was so great. He knew. He goes, "First match." I go, "Yeah, how'd you know?" He goes, "I know." He goes, "We all start someplace, kid." He says, "Let's talk about our match." He called it our match. And in the first match, he let me push him. I disqualified him. He pushed me. I pushed him. We started arguing, and I threatened to fine him $1,000 with the commission if he didn't shut up and get out of the ring. So he made me, and it put me greatly at ease. And that was the beginning of the wrestlers enjoyed working with me. I knew the sport. Some of the refs in New York weren't exactly into the sport. They thought it was boxing, and they disqualify a guy if if they touched him. I understood the sport, so it started there and ended 32 years later.